Powered by the Montana Television Network. Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
In Northern California, a pair of wildfires combined to become the largest wildfire in state history. I'm Laura Podesta with details on that firefight, as well as the fire growing south of LA that has spread rapidly overnight.
And a change of plea for a man accused of killing his wife on New Year's 2 years ago.
6:31 on this Tuesday. Chelly and Missy O'Malley with you here. Our top story this half hour. Wildfires raging throughout the western United States.
That's right. 2 fires in California are being treated as one incident, making it the largest in the state's history. CBS's Laura Podesta has our details.
A Northern California wildfire has exploded to become the largest in the state's history. The Mendocino complex north of San Francisco is being fueled by hot, windy weather and dry vegetation.
If anything over the next couple of days, this is bad news, the heat dome is actually going to expand and conditions will get hotter and drier.
The fire has already destroyed more than 150 structures and threatens thousands more. Officials don't expect to have it fully contained until next week. A record 14,000 firefighters are battling over a dozen fires throughout California.
And up you go.
In Southern California, hikers in Cleveland National Forest were rescued after a fast-moving fire erupted Monday. One resident had to run for his life.
So I see a little smoke. We better go down there. So we rush down there in a car and I get to the helicopter pad, and the fire is already, flames are across the road we couldn't cross.
2 firefighters there were treated for heat exhaustion.
It's unsafe and we cannot reopen the valley.
Parts of Yosemite National Park are closed after high winds pushed the fire past containment lines over the weekend.
We know this is a disappointing and challenging time for our visitors that have planned trips, sometimes years in advance.
Sacramento health officials are advising residents to avoid outdoor activities for the entire week because the smoke is so thick. Laura Podesta, CBS News, New York.
Now, Laura also adds President Trump weighed in on those fires, blaming environmental laws, which are not allowing massive amounts of water readily available to be properly used. But experts say that is not the issue. They've always had plenty of water to fight those flames.
6:33 now on this Tuesday. Meteorologist Matt Elwell joins us. Not a bad start.
No.
You've been talking about the advantage we're having over California is those cooler overnight temperatures.
That is really helping us out. Now, that may not last a tremendous amount of time because it's still going to get hot and it's still going to be dry for us. It's been a dry month last month, beginning of this month. We've had a few showers out there, but it looks like it's going to dry up pretty quickly. Temperatures right now into the 40s. 34 in West Yellowstone, the early morning temperatures. Beautiful start to the day. Our temperatures will top out into the mid-80s today. Coming up, we're going to talk a bit about our air quality concerns for the rest of the week, how warm it's going to be. We've got lots to talk about. That's coming up in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Matt. 6:34 now. On the local scene, a Bozeman man has now pleaded guilty to killing his wife with a frying pan. MTN's Mallory Peebles tells us what Jake Collins now faces as punishment.
This was Jake Collins following his arrest for killing his wife on New Year's Eve in 2016. He initially told officers that Crystal Collins walked off after the two had an argument and he hadn't seen her since. But later, he admitted to hitting her repeatedly with a cast iron frying pan while she lay on their bed, and then cutting her throat with a knife. Authorities found her body and evidence of the crime scene inside a sleeping bag in the bed of Collins' truck. The case has been moving through the court system towards a trial, but just last week, Collins entered into a plea agreement. In exchange for his guilty plea, the prosecutor would recommend the tampering with evidence term to be served at the same time as his deliberate homicide term.
Now, Mallory tells us even with the plea agreement recommendation of 102 years, that sentence Collins faces is entirely up to the judge, who could hand down a more harsh or a lighter prison sentence.
And a Bozeman police officer says he was repeatedly kicked in the groin on Saturday during a struggle with a drunk man in downtown Bozeman. Nicholas Donovan appeared in court yesterday with a black eye and a charge of assaulting a peace officer. In charging documents, the officer says he was attempting to arrest Donovan, who is suspected to have stolen property from a city vehicle in the City Hall parking lot. Documents say Donovan would not comply with the arrest and a struggle ensued. It wasn't until additional officers responded that Donovan was able to be handcuffed. His bail is set at $5,000.
We talked about this earlier in the show. Montana Governor Steve Bullock's administration preparing to restore at least $30 million of cuts in state human service programs. Yesterday in Helena, the people who benefit from and operate these programs testified on the effects of those cuts and where they should be restored. MTN's Mike Dennison has the story.
The cuts began late last year in response to the state's budget crisis and continued in January, affecting a wide array of health programs for the poor and disabled. Now, state revenue has bounced back, and some cuts will be restored. But as State Senator Diane Sands of Missoula said Monday, it's not all good news.
Let's not kid ourselves. You cannot make whole the programs that were devastated. This is about moving forward. This is one of your opportunities to tell the department and us how you would like to see the limited funding that's going to go back into this restoration process expended.
Some of the deepest cuts came in mental health programs. Officials with local mental health centers told a legislative committee Monday that funding for many services should be restored or revised and increased to keep them viable.
We serve almost 15,000 people. If we end up having to close our doors, I don't know where those 15,000 people are going to go. And we're, to be honest, several of us are at that point. We're out of reserves, we're out of savings, we're laying people off.
Dozens of people testified Monday before the Children, Families, Health and Human Services Interim Committee at a special hearing in the Capitol. The committee's chair, State Senator Mary Cafaro of Helena, said she hopes the testimony Monday will do more than just inform the governor on restoring vital programs.
Though we can't do anything now, today, we certainly need this information for the session, which is right around the corner. In the session, we'll have more to say about what happens.
The Bullock administration will decide soon where to restore some of these cuts made to mental health and other local human services. But what we heard Monday is that it may take a lot more in the future to get the system where it needs to be. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
By the way, members of the Bullock administration told MTN News that it will announce its budget decisions by September 1st and that the governor's priority is programs for the state's most vulnerable residents. So that's a story we're going to continue to follow.
Absolutely. As we approach 6:40 here almost on your Tuesday, it means it's also time to take a look at our Montana-made product of the week. A business near Big Sandy has found a number of ways to utilize their product.
MTN's Keely Van Middendorp reports from the oil barn in this week's Montana Made.
The oil barn has been producing high-quality safflower oil since 2011. Manager Trevor Wilkerson says what started out as a biodiesel operation soon turned into an opportunity to produce safflower oil for consumption.
That's when they found a deli that also wanted to use it in their fryers, and they decided they could get more money for it in the fryers, but then they could also reclaim that and reuse that in the tractors after they'd clean it.
It's now a developed process that benefits both the farming and food industries.
So this is the mash that they feed to the cattle after it's come through the oil press, and it's high in protein. It still has a little bit of oil content in it, but it's mostly just seed particles.
When it comes to patrons who walk on 2 feet, Wilkerson says the high oleic oil doesn't have a lot of fatty acids, making it great to grill or cook with.
It does taste really good in popcorn. You can just put it right on top of popcorn after you popped it, and that has a great flavor that way.
And while their oil is shipped worldwide, the company gets plenty of business here in the Treasure State. They work with both Montana State University and University of Montana and have their product in a number of grocery stores and delis. Wilkerson says the production of safflower oil has even given the local economy a boost.
Also because it gives opportunity to have options for different types of fuel rather than just the typical diesel that you'd run in a tractor. You can run biodiesel. It just has a lot of potential for bringing more jobs and more industry into Big Sandy and into Montana.
Most of the safflower is grown just a few miles away using local growers. Wilkerson says the oil is a truly Montana-made product. Reporting near Big Sandy, Keely Van Middendorp, MTN News.
Now we're told the oil barn looking into the possibility of creating hemp oil and exploring its many uses. They say hemp seeds produce oil similar to safflower seeds. More information on the oil barn can be found on our websites. We're going to sweeten it up for Montana Made next week, by the way. Meantime, here's a look at a couple of stories we're working on for next segment.
Amputees are getting back in the water thanks to a first-of-its-kind prosthetic leg made with a 3D printer. I'm Kenneth Craig with a look at the development that's promising to change lives.
Good morning. Ahead on CBS this morning, we're in California, where the Mendocino complex fire just became the largest in state history. How the year-round fire season is forcing many people to make permanent changes to their daily routine. And first on CBS this morning, how Ford and Boeing hope to keep employees healthy by using robotic suits to lighten the load. We'll see you at 7.